Personally, I don't watch scary movies. Why? Because I don't want negative, scary stuff in my dreams coming out. And then I'm waking up the next morning and I'm frazzled, or I didn't get a good night's sleep because I was tossing and turning. There's no time for that. Hi, this is Rob G, and welcome to Savvy. I'm so glad you're here today. I'm excited to talk to you about what I'm going to talk to you about. And the topic today is how to get the best out of yourself. And, I think there's a lot of people out there who would benefit from knowing how to do that. And maybe they don't always ask that particular question. It's always, where can I hack life, or where can I hack time, and how can I hack something in order to take some kind of shortcut, when really there is only one shortcut, and it's probably not really much of a shortcut as much as it is just a mindset on how to get the best performance from yourself, how to always make sure that you are getting the most out of the potential that you currently have. And so what I'm gonna talk to you about is the way that I've found, and again, this stuff doesn't come from me necessarily as much as it comes from experts in the field of thought process and mindset, and how to think with clarity, and how to succeed and how to win at whatever we're doing. And here at Savvy, that's what we're talking about most of the time. We talk about design and branding, which is the company that I build, which is genoveseweb.com, and we do branding, and of course that involves logos and websites and identity and messaging. But I've always got to make sure that I'm on point with myself, and that I'm always getting the best out of myself, because I'm building a company while I have a 9-to-5 job. So you're joining me on this journey here as I'm doing something that most people probably wouldn't be willing to do. Not that I think it's such a big thing that I'm doing, it's just something that I have to do. It's something that I love to do, that I want to do, and I think because it takes a lot of time, some people are scared away from it. But let's talk about getting the best out of yourself, because especially when you're time crunched, you don't have a lot of time to try and gear up. You've got to get yourself going. And I think that one of the problems with the way most people are approaching life and approaching business and approaching their craft, the reason they're not succeeding, and this especially pertains if you're building a business. If you're building a business, you wear so many hats, and there's so many things you have to get good at least good at, if not excellent at. You should only really be excellent at a couple of things and be very deep in the knowledge in those areas. But to build a business, you have to be good at a lot of things. And so people short circuit themselves in their whole process and how they're approaching it, what they're doing, and they get distracted and confused by what to do next and the things that are holding them back. And it really only comes down to one thing, and that's the good news. The good news is once you get this right, all that other stuff just kind of falls in line. So if you look at your mind, your brain, as the computer that it is, the greatest computer ever created. When you get a brand new computer, it comes with some apps and it comes with an operating system, but you need to customize it for what you need it to do. You have to download the apps that you need. If you're in the design business like me, you need fonts and you need certain apps, design apps and creativity apps and different pieces of software to be in the computer so that you can produce what it is you're going to produce. So I keep the viruses out, I keep the good apps in, I throw out the old bad apps, and that's what keeps the tool productive. And your mind is no different. It's what you're putting in. So it's what are you watching? What videos are you watching? What are you listening to in the form of a podcast, right? Who are you listening to? There's a big one, because, especially if you're going to build a business, you're going to run into a lot of people that, even though their intentions may be good for you, they are actually going to hinder you in the process. And they're doing it out of love, but they just don't understand what you're going for. So if you're feeling frustrated by that, you gotta watch who you listen to. So where does this input come from? Are you turning to and are you listening to family and friends? Like I said, family and friends mean well. Usually family especially means well, but they're not always the best source of support. Your friends, sometimes they fall a little bit below family in the fact that they're probably not going to be as supportive because they're not invested in you like a family would be, so they kind of try to detract from you sometimes, and maybe in a very subtle way they'll wonder what makes you think that you can succeed. Why? Because maybe they really haven't or don't know how. And I try to put it delicately, but you know, if you're listening to them and you got a great idea and you bring it to them, has that ever happened to you? Have you ever brought an idea to a friend or a family member and asked them what they thought about it? Probably didn't go so well. It was probably met with lukewarm reaction or a mediocre enthusiasm because they want to protect you, so they don't want you to get your hopes up. So they're not exactly always supportive, and they may wonder, you know, well, why are you going to do that? Why don't you just stay in your good job? You know, why would you try and do something else? Stick with your job. Don't try to build a business. It's too difficult. You know, you're not that kind of person, and they think they're protecting you and they're really hurting you. So sometimes you need to put some distance between you and them and just stay in your own mind. So as far as the input, you should only be listening to experts. You should be self-confident enough in your skill set, and if you're a designer like me, I never, ever ask anybody their opinion of my designs, ever. And the reason is because their opinion is irrelevant to my design. I mean, if I have my skills and I know they're good, and I craft a design, what is somebody's opinion a matter about it? I mean, think about it for a second. It's kind of ridiculous. Their opinion doesn't matter. If you know it's good, that's all you need. You don't need validation from somebody else to know if your design is good or your idea is good. If you need to know something in a particular skill set, so for instance, back to design, if you need to know more about color and you're not so good with color, go online or take a course by a professor, a teacher, a coach who is excellent at color because they've used it successfully. They've used it many different ways in designs and, you know, digital or print or whatever, but they understand how color is communicating certain emotions and how it's used to make things look really nice and well designed. Learn from an expert. Don't ask somebody what they think. Go to the expert, get the knowledge, and increase your skill set. And on that note, you want to make sure that it's positive input only. You know, you can talk to somebody and it sounds like they're being supportive, but they're saying it in a negative fashion. So you want to make sure it's always encouraging and it's not a criticism and saying, you know, this would be good if only, or, you know, what you're doing here is completely wrong. And I'm not saying, this is kind of a walking a fine line because you want a little bit of, you want feedback, but if it feels negative and makes you feel bad because it feels like a personal attack, then it's probably not the best input. So that's why I really don't actually ask any person to look at my creations or look at my idea. I may ask somebody who is in that exact field what they think about an idea, a concept. That's different. But if it's just a concept and you want to bounce it off somebody to get feedback and you're not locked onto it yet yourself, that's not a bad idea. But as long as it's put forth in a positive way and that person can offer positive solutions to help you move it forward. So how exactly do you do this? I mean, so I've explained what some of the problems are and the things to watch out for and what you need in terms of positivity, but how do you actually do that? Because it's so easy to get defocused sometimes when we're working on something and somebody comes along and maybe criticizes it. Or if we're talking to somebody else and somebody else overhears and we get their 2 cents and we didn't even ask for it. Or, even if you're watching videos or if you're watching, Hulu or Netflix or something and it has nothing to do with what you're doing and it's negative, you know what? The one thing you want to make sure you're doing is you want to be saturating your mind and your brain with the thing you want. So if you want the skills, if you want the positive reinforcement, if you want to know something more on a particular subject, you need to be watching, consuming content. As I said in the beginning, your brain is like a computer, and the way you get input is through what you see and what you hear and what you say. And so through all those 3 input sources or input channels, the things you're watching and reading and speaking, they need to be in the area of the thing you're looking to become an expert at and become really good at. So in other words, all the stuff that's going in is intentional, because your conscious brain is only going to focus on what's been put in there recently. That's why, personally, I don't watch scary movies. Why? Because I don't want negative, scary stuff in my dreams coming out, and then I'm waking up the next morning and I'm frazzled, or I didn't get a good night's sleep because I was tossing and turning. There's no time for that. I tell my kids that all the time. Don't watch that stuff. Don't look at negative stuff. Turn away from the news. This is getting a little deep, I understand that, but the point has to be made that everything you are doing that's going into your brain has to be along the lines of, I've heard this said, fanatical. You ever hear somebody call somebody who's really good at something and it's what they do all the time, that they're fanatical? Like the person that may be in the gym 5-6 times a week and they eat healthy and they go running and they hang out with other gym people. They call them fanatical because they seem so extreme. Well, to the average person, that may seem fanatical, but really, that person is just saturated in the thing and the lifestyle that they love and that they believe in. And honestly, that is probably their source of income, is based in that. So why not become fanatical in an area that you're passionate about? So inputs are very important. So you want to take or watch or take input from those sources, from people who have already done what you're looking to do, and just consume a lot of it. Every morning I'll go to some videos that are offering education and advice in a positive way about what I'm looking to do. If I'm looking to sit down and create some branding for a new client, I'll watch a whole bunch of videos from people who are tops in the field, and I'll read a book maybe that I've already read or some blog posts about that, and I'm preparing my mind to enter that space so I can get the most out of myself at that time. I have the knowledge, but you want to be able to call it up. It should be on tap, and the way you do that is just bring yourself to those channels where you're hearing and seeing that topic, and then your brain is ready for it. It's fertile and it's ready to be creative in that aspect. The next thing you could think to do is, and a lot of people might not do this, but you've heard the saying, the teacher learns more than the student. So number one is, you want to be a student. You want to be a good student and learn as much as you can about a particular topic. But when you really learn, hey, teach somebody else. That's part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing here at Savvy. It's, I like sharing what I'm doing, and I like getting the feedback and getting thoughts from other people when they're going through something similar, or maybe they have a solution I haven't thought of, so I learn from that. But what I'm learning and the good stuff that I know and I'm giving to you, as I'm teaching you or telling you, or I don't want to think that I'm a teacher so much as it's just I'm sharing a perspective and a point of view, I'm learning more about it because I have to be forced to explain it. And when you're forced to explain something, you really get the knowledge. You really becomes a part of you. And that's really what we're talking about here, is having it become a part of you so it's on tap when you need it. That's how you really bring out the best in yourself. So how would you do that? Well, here's another thing. People ask me a lot. They know about YouTube and they know about podcasts. They watch YouTube and they listen to podcasts. They read articles, so they know about blogs. And they're on Twitter and they're reading other people's thoughts. But for some reason, they can't quite connect the dots and knowing that they should do that too. So that's what you should consider doing. I am spreading myself across all platforms thanks to the internet. It has made it free and easy for me to express my perspectives and get my thoughts out there, get feedback on those thoughts from experts, learn from them, tap into their minds. So look, you can do something like this. You can start a YouTube channel and just start talking about what you do. Whatever you're good at, talk about it. Start a podcast. Download the Anchor app, and it's amazing. You can just talk into your phone, hit publish, and people can hear it on whatever podcast app player that you listen to, Stitcher or Apple Podcasts or Pocket Casts, anywhere. Spotify, it's on Spotify. So I have a podcast on there as well, Authentic Rob G. You can check me out over there. Go to Instagram if you're in the visual field, and you can post some of your creativity up there. Not for people's opinions, but because you want to be able to get it out there so you can hear some of the positive comments as well. Ignore the haters, don't worry about it. People are gonna hate, we know that. Ignore them. You're not out there for validation, you're out there for awareness and raising what you're doing, so you can just keep feeding your mind with that. Because when you're posting on Instagram, guess what? You're looking on Instagram and following people who are in your field so you can see what they're doing and learn from them as well. Put your thoughts out on Twitter. Why? Because you're gonna read people's thoughts on Twitter, but put yours out there. Get involved, become engaged in it. Talk about what you're doing, and you will become better at it. You'll want to be talking about real projects they're doing. So if you're freelancing, and I'm not big on the whole freelance world, but if you are a freelancer, or if you're building a business, whatever project you're working on, talk about it as you're doing it. Pick out one part of it that you might find interesting, where maybe it was a challenge, and here's how you got past that challenge and won, and the client loved it. Talk about that, explain that, record that, make it fun, be yourself, be authentic, be real, and have fun with it, and just put it out there, because as you're explaining it, you're gonna learn a lot about yourself, and you're gonna learn a lot about your process, and that's part of getting the best out of yourself all the time. So when you put all these talking points together, what are we talking about? We're talking about saturating your brain with the knowledge you need, teaching it or talking about it, explaining it to people, whoever will listen, explain what you do, keep it all positive, and then go out there and do the work and just keep repeating the process. But it all starts with putting the good stuff in, positive, expert information, and you'll be good. Do it morning, noon, and night, and all times in between, and before you know it, you're gonna become an expert at what you do in a very short time. So that's a long-winded explanation. I didn't want it to be this long, but I do want to stress the point of whatever is going in is what's going to come out. The old saying, garbage in, garbage out. Well, good stuff in, good stuff out. So spike some comments down below. Hit that subscribe button, because I want to hear from you. And I'm putting up regular content here every week, so you can tune in and see what I've got to talk about with each new video, and comment in there. And you want to catch me across the web, as I said, you could find me on your podcast player app, as well as Instagram and Twitter, Authentic Rob G. See some of my work, hear some of my thoughts, and listen to me ramble about other topics. So I'm Rob G. As always, remember, always be learning, always stay savvy. Thanks for watching.